kid could go to if he wants to.
Because somebody said that was bad and they all needed to go to college instead. They didn't want blue collar workers.
Yeah, and I'm not against college education. Don't misunderstand me, but I'm just saying, have we overdosed on this idea of college?
Well, there's a lot of kids that are not college kids. They
Right.
just will not make it. They're not going to study. They're not going to pass. Somebody's got to pay them,
Well,
get their
it's
grades up.
just not their mentality. They're more of a hands-on group.
That's right.
That's what trade school's for.
And they get out and they're dumber than a rock.
Yeah. Well, they're dumber than a rock because they've never done anything.
That's right.
I am a big proponent of experience. I believe that common sense is a product of experience. And I believe learning right from wrong is a product of experience. I believe, I can tell somebody, don't touch that red hot piece of steel right there, it'll burn you. I can tell them that all day long. But until they touch that piece of steel and burn their finger, then all of a sudden they understand the truth of what I was saying. So experience is a great teacher. Okay, Mike, we appreciate your call.
All right, and I'll see you later.
And don't lose the phone number, Mike.
Oh, no, I got it. My bill phone.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
You be careful out there.
You bet.
Hey, we should talk about A1 Gunworks.
Yes,
Chris
we should.
Copeland. Yeah, his number is 254-721-2773. And he's got a new gun shop down there in Little River Academy, right there off the highway, off 95. And he's got a website, and that's the letter A, 1gunworks.com. And he is open Monday through Wednesday and Friday from 9:30 to 5. He's closed on Thursday. And Saturday, 9:30 to 2. He has guns for sale, parts. He does tuning, stock work, gunsmithing, including gun barrel chambering, threading, refinishing, hot bluing, and it just does one-of-a-kind, old-fashioned color case hardening of pistols, rifle parts, and he specializes in custom work and more, repairing all makes and models, new and old accepted. And Chris is also a local veteran of the U.S. Army with 2 combat tours, and he's a graduated one of the best trade schools in the United States, which is the Colorado School of Trades.
Yeah, and he's a new sponsor on this radio call-in show, so
At least give him a call and tell him welcome to the community.
you better believe it. Go down there and patronize his business because he's helping keep this show on the air.
Yep, and his number again is 254-721-2773, and he's at 409 North Highway 95 in Little River Academy. Sorry, folks.
Okay, here's Keith on the phone. Keith, what you got allowed this morning? This evening, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to mention, I used to work for an old attorney, and he used to give me some sage advice, and one of the items that he mentioned was that under no circumstances would he travel to a country that did not offer the writ of habeas corpus. Meaning, example, in Mexico, they'll throw your ass in jail and throw away the key.
Exactly. Well,
And so I wanted to pass that on to all your constituents there because that is some wonderful advice. People don't realize the justice system in Mexico, for example.
well, there's a whole lot of difference between Mexico and here. That's why I'm saying there are people here that propose that this really should be Mexico instead of Texas. Well, those people don't know very much about Mexico.
That's right.
And I would give them some more advice. Go down there to the Alamo, walk in the Alamo, look up on the left side of the wall up there. There's a big brass plaque that gives the names of all those who died in the Alamo. Look at how many of those names, those surnames, are of Mexican descent. And I'd like to remind people those Hispanics that died in the Alamo did not die for Mexico, people. They died for Texas. So, let's not forget that that wasn't just the toxic masculine white male that everybody hates. That was a good many good people of Mexican descent that wanted freedom from Mexico. They wanted Texas to be Texas, and they helped make it Texas. So
They wanted
Santa Ana,
rights. They wanted independent rights. They wanted liberty.
Santa Ana was a dictator. Those were Texicans there.
there you
All
go.
of them.
They sure
All of
were.
them fighting.
And you know, I don't mean to preach a sermon about Mexico, but I'm
Really?
just saying.
That's what you're doing.
Well,
I'm just giving it back to you.
well, it's I've experienced a few things down there that most people, I guess, have not experienced, and there's so many people, the left-wing activists or whatever you want to call them, that they cuss America and they want to go back to Mexico or go back to Germany or go back to wherever. Well, if you think America's so bad, get on that airplane or that boat and go back over there. You
That's
know,
right.
you know, there's nothing stopping you. You know, it's like the people that advocate socialism. You know, Bernie Sanders, people like that. If you think socialism is so dad blame great, get on that airplane and go to Venezuela. You know,
You bet.
they'll be
There's
happy
several
to
other
see you.
countries you can choose from, not just Venezuela.
Yeah, there's a lot of countries you can go to. If you think socialism is so great, just get after it and go to one of them. But
Yeah, there's a lot of places you can't get you can't hold employment
yeah,
out of the country. They
Well-
won't allow you to or own land.
right. And there's so many freedoms that we have here that we take for granted. Like you mentioned, habeas corpus. The problem is most people can't spell habeas corpus. They don't know what you're talking about. But you know, they don't understand that habeas corpus is what gives them the presumption of innocence. You know,
That's right.
and they don't teach that in school anymore. See, if we
Due process and property rights, the basis of our country.
a very wise man said once, no free society can exist without the right to possess and protect property. Okay, you can't possess property in Venezuela, and you sure can't protect it. Because, number one, they haven't got a gun to protect it with.
Right.
They've already taken that away. Well, there's just so many things like that the activists and the people that advocate socialism and things like that, they don't know what they're talking about. They've never been to a socialist country. And like I say, if you think it's a great move. Anyway, now, Keith, you done got me stirred up.
Well, I want to say one thing. Paul Ryan, he's just as bad as Pelosi.
Yeah.
They should have had a lot done in 2 years, but he killed everything he could.
Well, he deliberately did that.
He sure did.
Well,
And another thing I want to mention is about these schools. For the past 20 plus years, I've been involved in actually grading the performance of teachers and the feedback that I get from their students. And these poor students are not being instructed. Some of them don't have, like you said earlier, don't have the ability to write. And it just upsets me to no end.
well, are
to
they
see
being,
this.
Keith, are they being instructed or are they being indoctrinated? You know,
In my humble opinion, I would say 75% plus are being indoctrinated. There are some students that I get that are so brilliant it'll blow your mind away, and they don't dwell on a lot of this negative, in my opinion, negative.
that's a
But
good-
you get a lot of them that are just so fixated, and they were taught that way to just expound on the negative and one certain aspect of life.
Well, and the reason I say indoctrination, there's a growing number now of teachers that are promoting the transgender lifestyle and the LGBT lifestyle, and you know, is that teaching students or is that indoctrinating students? And what?
Well, they're softening them up. They have a situation over in Leander Library today that they're going to have transvestites story time. Now, those poor little children looking at that, they don't understand what that really means. You can't sit there and explain that to them.
Well, unless I'm mistaken, I think the library has stopped that, and now there's a church over there that's taking that up.
Okay, all right, a church, huh?
Yeah, it's a church doing it now. Now, but that brings another question, Keith. What kind of God-fearing, God-worshiping church does that? You know, I asked the question, how can you look me in the eye and tell me you're a freedom-loving, liberty-loving Christian American, and you believe in that kind of shut up, Conn?
Well, then you also brought up the fact of how could these churches be bringing all these South Africans, you know, from the Congo and whatever, and even one of those had Ebola. You know, that would make, you know, I don't know if he's part of that 6 or that makes him 7 into the United States.
It was just on the news that a church in Dallas brought 600 people here from the Congo and put them in Dallas. Now,
well, you know, 4 years ago, Conn, they had a Ebola outbreak in Africa, and it was a big deal.
Well, Ebola is about 97% fatal, and very, very, very contagious. What kind of a moron do you have to be to want to bring that to the United States?
Exactly.
You know, I keep asking the question, why are you so adamant, not you, Keith, but the people we're talking about, why are they so adamant in destroying the United States of America? Why is that? You know, I wouldn't give a darn except I live here. You know, I don't want to see it destroyed. So what is in the brain of any teacher, activist, whatever he is, whose end goal is to destroy America? Barack Obama ran for president and said, I want to fundamentally change America. And idiots voted for him. And he's standing there saying he wants to destroy America and rebuild it, I guess, in the communist, socialist, Muslim
way. I
mean,
he definitely used all the typical propaganda tools of hope and getting the crowd all jazzed up and all that. You know, what was it? Are you ready? Let's go, yada, yada. You know, he had 5 different chants that he did that were part of his platform.
Well, look at Bernie Sanders. He's been sucking off the hind tit for, let's say, 40 years in Congress. Now, come on. He hadn't done anything.
Well, what kind of an freedom-loving Christian American will listen to Bernie Sanders and then go down and vote for him? You know,
and I blame the citizens of Vermont for putting that clown in over and over and over again. With, you know, what has he done? And Hillary Clinton bought him off with a new house to get him out of the race.
Several new houses.
Yeah. So I mean, he's paid off. He's bought off. He has no morals or conscience whatsoever, and all he does is expound
Keith,
his BS.
Why, Keith, is that so easy for you to understand, but so many Americans can't understand what you're talking about? Why is that? Why is that so difficult for the American public to understand?
They don't teach history anymore, true history.
Or civics, but everything is managed brainwashing news.
That's right.
Well, it is, and you know, the news media, the public school systems, what is their goal? What do they want to do to America? I keep using the analogy about going over here and getting on Interstate 45 and heading south. Well, you're going to wind up in Houston, Texas if you don't get off that road. Well, what road is America traveling? And who's driving this car that we're on this road? You know, what is their goal? Where do they want to take America? And is that where we want to go? I don't want to go there, and you don't either.
No.
But what's the goal of these people? What was the goal of Barack Obama? You know, and there are people that would vote for him today. What
Well, nobody stood up to Obama. They wouldn't expose him. There's so much to be exposed about him. It's incredibly, amazing how they never vetted him.
Well, and
never asked true questions. And look what they're doing to Trump. Anything he does, they criticize and go on. But Obama, he was a saint.
well, and why is it they think Obama walks on water, and Donald Trump is whatever?
He was their man. He was their man. Kennedy, the Kennedy daughter. I heard they recorded a statement telling Obama that you have great responsibility now, and it's all up to you. Before he was president, so he was hand-selected to do the bidding of the higher-ups. They had him down. What his training is just set up as a socialist and bringing bad tidings to the United States. My humble opinion.
Where is Obama from? Where is Michelle from? Where is Bill Ayers from? Where is Louis Farrakhan from? Where does I don't know, I could name 3 dozen of the worst politicians in the United States, and they're all from Chicago.
And now
and they pull their law license, both of them, but you never hear anything about that and the reasoning behind that.
No, they never investigate that. See,
no.
Keith, dadgum, you got my motor started.
I better go, Conn.
Well,
Listen,
I give you one more thing to think about.
Uh-oh.
Whataburger's now owned by an investment firm out of Chicago. And you know what those investment firms are really? That just, we lost Whataburger. That sucks. And Slitterbond, because now they're, I think somebody in Utah or Idaho or something like that bought Slitterbond.
Well, I've got a thing about Chicago, but if you look at all of the worst socialist, anti-American groups that want to destroy this country, where are they from? Did they learn from Al Capone? Al Capone totally owned Chicago. He owned the judges, the police chief, everything. He owned it.
It's just a breeding
and
ground.
If he said something, he either bought you off or scared you off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't there an old song, the Chicago, that toddling town?
Yeah.
Well, they toddled all right.
All right, let's look at Hillary Clinton. Look at her connections to Chicago, and then answer me the question: why did Jeff Sessions never pursue indicting Hillary Clinton? Did she scare him off, or did she buy him off? And did she learn well from Al Capone?
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's a good point, Conn.
Keith, we got to turn you loose here. We got to go to a break, but
all right.
You be careful out there. The thing I like about that kind of music is you can laugh at the words or you can listen to them, but it was good music. It was dancing music. It's Texas dancing music. Anyway, I'll spare you my sermon on that. But okay, folks, I think we got a fella on the line waiting to talk, and he's from up there in the North Country, and we're not going to hold that against him because he's north of the Mason-Dixon. But that's okay. He's a pretty good fellow. I guess we'll let him talk. Ed, are you there?
Hello, Conn and Tina. How are you today?
Hey, Ed.
Pretty
how
good.
Are you?
So you started off the program with a very profound thought when you said that the duty and responsibility of these legislators is to protect us. And they're doing anything but that. They're not acting in the best interest of this country, of America or our Constitution.
They're selling out America, Ed. And
that's right. It's criminal activity, and they need to be treated as criminals and brought to justice. They're evil people. They're destroying our country. And, the easy ones to pick out are OAC and Nasty Nancy and Frankenstein and Omar, but they're rife with them on both sides of the fence. And but who are you going to complain to?
Well, that's the point, Ed. They're all in the same group. Not all of them, but most of them are. I keep picking on Hillary, but what do you call her selling 20% of our uranium to our enemy?
Treason.
That's treason any way you want to call it.
So
and
why hasn't she been brought to justice and charged for treason?
because they're scared of her. She can either buy them off or scare them off. That's what I'm saying about the Chicago connection. We need to understand that if you start connecting the people to Chicago, I'm reminded of Grandma Conn. She said, Conn, birds of a feather flock together. Okay, you look at all the corrupt politicians and the anti-American activists, terrorists, whatever you want to call them, look at how many of them are connected to Chicago, including Hillary Clinton.
Right, and the behavior pattern for legislators once they get there has been formatted. In other words, there's a series of steps that you have to follow in order to do anything, and what you wind up doing is the wrong thing.
Well, and that's my point. Does a politician, when he wins office, does he immediately get instructions from the boys in Chicago of how he's going to vote, what he's going to vote for, who he's going to represent? Is that what's going on? I don't know. But another thing to look at is who sponsors people running for political office. Where did Beto O'Rourke, where did his money come from? And so many politicians ask where the money came from and then tell me who owns them.
The chief criminal, George Soros. But, you mentioned another thing that is disgusting, and it's going on not only down in Texas, but up here as well, with these transvestite cross-dressers addressing these kids in schools and in churches. This is a crime. 50 years ago, as you mentioned, those people wouldn't make it out for lunch.
No, and look at how that stuff is being promoted. I mean, even churches are promoting that. Keith called a few minutes ago and he mentioned a place called Leander here in Central Texas. The library in Leander had sessions of how to instruct children to be a trans, whatever you want to call them. Well, the taxpayers finally stopped it in the library, and so it moved over to a church. And now the church is promoting transgender, whatever
gender
you call
bender.
It. Yeah,
gender bender. They're programming these kids to it, just like they program them to be dumbed down. They don't teach them the Constitution in the school system. That's long gone.
Well, not long ago it was on the news that some grandfather somewhere, he was a black man, he went down to where his grandson was in the, second grade. I think his grandson was 6 years old, and the teacher in his class was having him put on a dress every day. Well, Grandpa went down there and he put a stop to that stuff. Well, I'm just saying that's how our society is changing. That's going on in our school system, and 30 years ago, that school teacher would have had a hard time making it home, and I don't advocate that, but I'm just saying that's how our society has changed. It's gone from the abrupt, immediate stopping of that kind of crap to now we allow that kind of stuff. And it's being promoted in our schools and now in some churches.
Nationwide. It's not limited to Leander or any other small town. It's happening up here, too. This is a big controversy. People wanted to stop it in the school system because they wanted this gender bender, trans nonsense forced on these kids, and that's what they're doing. They force this perversion or criminal activity on the public, and the public, tell a big lie long enough, and people will believe it. Well, they're accepting it.
Well, are we so afraid of violating political correctness that we are willing to give up our children to this crap?
There's nothing correct about it. It's wrong. That's the whole deal. Even the verbiage, politically correct. Well, that sounds like a positive term. So does progressive, but it's not. They've changed the language as well.
Well, it is progressive. It's progressing toward the destruction of America. When you destroy the traditional values, the Christian values, when you destroy what made America what it is, then you have destroyed America. And I really disagree with some of these politicians. I forgot who it was now that said America never was great. And this guy's running for president. You know, he thinks America never was great and can't be great again, and he wants to be president. You know, somebody needs to visit him with a wet rope out behind the barn or something. I have no sympathy, Ed, for people like that. I can't tolerate it. I have no sympathy for it. And I think it needs to be stopped cold in its tracks before it gets any worse. But
I agree.
We're not going to stop it. We're going to allow it because it's politically correct. You cannot say anything adverse about LGBT or transgenders or anything like that because it's not politically correct. So, you know,
In some places it's illegal.
when are we going to stand up for truth and the American way instead of political correctness? I don't know. But if we don't stand up against political correctness, we're going to lose this country. Now,
I agree.
and
Well,
Ed, me and you wouldn't care, but we live here, you know.
well, I do care because it's our culture is being destroyed. You know, what kind of legacy are we leaving to our kids? You know, if the founding fathers could look at this and they would be doing it in disbelief. It's our duty, it's our responsibility to oppose it. But you know, such a large segment of the population has been brainwashed, you can't even talk to them because it's like talking a different language.
Well, that's what I'm saying about our universities and our schools. It's not education, it's indoctrination.
Right.
It's brainwashing. And I bring up an example of this. I was watching, every Sunday evening I watch the RFD channel, and it's like hee-haw and country music, and I enjoy that. At any rate, before the country music comes on, there's a cowboy church. I think the program is from somewhere in Colorado. I kind of think the church really is here in Texas, but anyway, I don't know the pastor's name. I know it's got, I think, Susie McIntyre. I think that is Reba McIntyre's sister. But at any rate, this pastor was giving a sermon about manhood, and he quoted some scriptures, and he said, let's not confuse masculinity with machoism. It's two different things. But he said we're trying to destroy masculinity in this country, and I agree with him. We need to promote masculinity. We don't need to destroy it, because after you've destroyed masculinity, who do you think is going to protect the women and children? Who's going to protect America? All those boys that died over there in Normandy, all them little white crosses there and at Arlington, places like that, what's underneath them white crosses was somebody that had some masculinity about him. That's who's underneath that cross. So if we destroy masculinity in this country, and that's what they're trying to do, they're promoting.
They call it toxic.
Well,
they call it toxic.
Exactly. You know, and what do they want to convert from masculine men? They want to convert them to girly men. Oh, Ed, you done got me going.
Nothing new.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Ed.
Yeah, he's got you and me both doing it to him today, right? Hey, did you hear the theme of the show is, you know, Conn running for office, because the second caller, I think, was Keith, and he's like, yes, and your constituents. Most people say listeners, but no, it was constituents. So I'm like, okay, so Conn's running for office.
Yeah. Don't hold your
When
breath.
it's least expected, you're elected. It's your blessed day.
Well, you know, I can't run for office, Ed, because I don't own a suit and tie, and I don't have any plans of buying one.
Well,
That never
you know what?
stops you
That
from
might be the
doing
best selling
anything.
point.
Well,
The real deal across the board.
uh-oh.
That's right.
Well, Ed, I appreciate your call as always.